Good morning. Just checking the microphone's working. Yep, all looks good. Okay, so today is the last day of the month. I can't believe the first month of the year's already gone by. So hopefully everyone's had a good month. I'm just sorting out my screens. So I just added a couple extra supply and demand zones in. Okay, I'll go into that in a second. Before we start, let's look to see what news could and have moved the market. So Friday we had Fed speakers, we had employment cost, we had PCE, and we had PPI, and personal spending, personal income. So we had quite a lot of news coming at 8:30, and we didn't really get a great deal of movement. That candle there, so a bit of indecision, which hopefully doesn't set us up to the same type of thing today. Yesterday was a terrible trading day. So anything later on, we've got PMI coming in at 9:45, so be wary of that, and then nothing else apart from a little bit of oil news. So let's just see where we were yesterday. I didn't take a trade yesterday. In fact, I took Bitcoin. I can go into that when I get to the Bitcoin chart. But yesterday we had, I think we had pre-market high, something like that, pre-market low there, and nothing really set up. Pre-market low kind of just pushed right through and then came back up. There was no setup there, and then pre-market high came, didn't quite break over it, pushed up with no pullback into it, and then just sold straight back off again. So yesterday was a no trade day. I was only looking for A+ setups and there was no setups. I will quickly go over my Bitcoin because that was a decent trade. Here we are. So in fact, I was watching a area of, let's scroll out a bit, area of supply and demand. So I was watching this region up here, waiting for it to come in. I should mark these zones up as well. And so there's my zone. I think it was about here. I think I was watching this zone here. Let's draw it up. So this is the area I was watching for I think it was around there, I can't quite remember offhand. But I was watching for it to come into that zone, and then in fact my zone was much lower than that. I think it was based on this candle here. So let's just draw it in, because it's what I'm going to be watching more, because I'm looking for more clever and better confirmation. So that's my demands, my supply zone. The reason I like that, because we had a bit of sell off, we had buyers came in, and then we had a big move down. So I'm trying to just keep an eye on close supply and demand, closest to where we were, exactly that, and that's exactly how I got in. So yesterday, and we pushed up into that zone, and usually I'll be trying to find an entry in here for it to come back out, or even a retest. But this time I waited for it to come back. I waited for the retest, and then I moved. And then when I realised there was no more follow through above that zone, then I moved down to the 5-minute chart. Let's just do that quickly. So it's basically a little code with a bit of a trade review really. So I moved down into the 5-minute chart, and I went, where was it? In fact, it was the break of that one. So we pushed in, came out, pushed in, came out, then the big push, so that took out all that liquidity there, came back out, and then when we came back in with no more follow through, then that was the liquidity gone from that area, and then I entered there. So that's my entry just there, and my stop was up here. So doing okay, came back, and then I realised it was putting in this pattern, so I held on to it. I should have added, I didn't add really, but I should have probably added, and then obviously you see it sold off. So I took profit down here. It finally came down. My profit target was there just at that pivot, and we just missed it. So as it came back up, I took a bit of profit off there, and then I stopped out. I moved my stop all the way down to the VWAP, that area there, which I thought would hold, and you can see it kind of held it a few times and then came back and it took me out. So don't bear in mind my entry is way up here, so it's a decent trade on Bitcoin, and eventually would never have stopped me out, and it carried on going. So in fact, it's a I took the Bitcoin futures, and so the market closed at 5 o'clock, so I would have been out down here anyway, so I wouldn't have got anything better out of it. So that was a decent trade for yesterday, so I'm keeping an eye on that. I'm starting to trade Bitcoin a bit more now. But let's just look at some levels today, starting from ES. So aftermarket, I think we had earnings, was it Apple, and a couple other tech stocks, and you see we've been putting in this uptrend, and we're not putting in any new higher highs in the pre-market, so just bear that in mind. Coming into this level we've had on watch for some time, so this level at 61.30, it's an area of confidence, and then we had a big reaction to it, big sell-off, and we've got this big volume spike in that area as well. So keep an eye, it's a key area, this area. So today I'm watching for a break and retest of that pre-market high area, 61.30. Otherwise, if we can't break out of this area of overhead supply, then I'm looking for potentially a break and retest into that area back down. We've got pre-market high, that's the only hiccup here. I do quite like pre-market high for a bounce, and only because we've got the highs of yesterday, this area consolidation. So technically, if we do take pre-market high, this will continue this trend, and that'll be our trend continuation. Pre-market high, pre-market low for bounces. If we do lose pre-market low, then I'm going to be watching it for a break and retest back down. And so 61.16 break and retest short, 61.16 for the bounce. I do quite like this area here. However, it is pre-market area, but we've got highs of yesterday with a little bit of volume there as well, so that volume is coming right into this area. So just keep an eye on this area for a potential bounce. And then if we do sell off, then we've got this area of demand down here, and it's the lows, this area of liquidity from FOMC as well. So let's just, I'll be watching for a potential bounce, yesterday's low, this region here. And I think that's it. We've got major volume right down in the middle here. So point of control runs right through this area of confidence, 60.80. And we could potentially watch this 6100 as well. We've got this volume shelf. We've got this level we've already had drawn, tops of pivots, bottoms of pivots, tops, bottoms, and we've yet to retest that area. So that's really what I'm watching for. So higher probability would be the break and retest of pre-market high for trend continuation, and potentially a bounce down here off of these yesterday's high. SPY, okay, so same as before, break and retest of pre-market high, considering we are already in this area of overhead supply. We've got the point of control exactly where we are. Well, not the point of control, I meant a big volume shelf. Exactly where we are right now, 607. So I quite like the break and retest of pre-market high into new all-time highs, 610. If we get up into the 610 area, in fact I want to move that. That should probably be there. I'm looking at the 5 minute as well, so I've just moved that because now we've got this new high from a few days ago. In fact, let's go back to the hourly. I think I was looking at the 5 minute on ES. And we'll go back to that in a second. So I quite like the rejection at 610 on SPY. Big area of overhead supply. Big reaction last time we got there. We are right on this volume shelf right now, and the current point of control. Tops of all these pivots. Tops of these pivots as well. And maybe it's the tops of these pivots. So firstly, I'm watching for the break and retest of pre-market high. We have a bit of room up till we get to the 610 area. Then I'm looking for the rejection from 610. Again, I'm looking for it to come back and retest, something like that. Otherwise, yesterday's low at 600, psychological number. I do quite like that for a bounce. And we do have this area of volume, bit of area of potential demand as well. It was a supply zone, and now potentially we're above it. It could be a demand zone. So let's keep an eye on it. 600, 602. Let's go back to ES on the hourly. Okay, so again, quite like the rejection. If we break this trend, this is our current trend, That's most touches about there. So we're a long way off from there, but we could be holding that trend, and that could be our trend continuation. So I do like the break and retest a pre-market high into previous all-time highs. If we lose the pre-market low, we do have this bounce point at 6100 we just talked about. We do have the point of control just below that area as well, big area of confluence as well. And then into this area of demand 60-60, so that's the bounce area. And I think that's it really. And keep an eye on this area here for potential rejection. Last time I was up there with this big reaction down, and we've yet to retest that area. SPX levels, same as yesterday, nothing's really changed. Look how these levels are holding. So we held it there, and then we had this level in place, and look at that, we came back down and literally bounced off it yesterday, and then we broke through that level. So we're holding that area, so we'll be opening a little bit high. So we've got this area 6100, potentially a rejection area. Otherwise we've got the new all-time highs. Don't really like shorting all-time highs, but if we put in some sort of downward trend line, then maybe we can look for the retest, something like that, a lower low, I meant that, a lower high. NQ, got this zone here. I like this zone for a while now. We've got a volume shelf above it as well, areas of confluence. Last time we came there, we had some buyers came in and then a big sell off. So that's a big area to watch. 21,877 for the rejection, and then keep an eye on that entire zone. If we push up into that region, I'll be looking for a break and retest. Otherwise, let's watch for the pre-market high, break and retest long. We've got a bit of movement, bit of gap, bit of room to that area. And then if we lose pre-market low, be a bit wary because we've got yesterday's high just below. It's going to be hard to go short while we're in this hourly uptrend, but we can keep an eye on that area. We do have the point of control and a big area of confluence, lots of volume in this region, tops and bottoms of pivots. So 21,600 area for the bounce. It's an area we've been watching anyway, and then we've got this area of demand below where we can watch for a bounce of yesterday's low. QQQ hasn't quite filled the gap yet, so we can potentially watch this region for a rejection. We've got volume coming in that area as well, so let's keep an eye on 530 down to 528 for the rejection. We've got this double top up here, that's another rejection point, and then we've got yesterday's high for potential bounce, this region here, 524 to 525.65 for the bounce. Oil, it's broken this trend line in the pre-market, pushed through it a bit yesterday. What day was I was out yesterday? Yeah, yesterday morning we pushed through that area and then instantly rejected it, and then we pushed back up, bit of a top and tail there, and now we're back down again. So we could be looking at a bit of a change of trend potentially. Are we looking at a potential left shoulder, head, right shoulder? Neckline could be this region here. If so, then we watch for the break and retest of that trend line. We've got to get over yesterday's high pivot, and potentially we've got to get through $74. We've got volume coming in at that point as well. So if we can break over that area, come back down and retest, we can look for a potential break and retest and a change of trend. Otherwise, if we hold, $72, we'll watch that area for a bounce as well. And if we lose that area, we're continuing the trend down. Gold. Look at gold for a second. Is in a big uptrend. Look at that. So we've got, this is the trend. I do quite like it if we come back down into this region for a test. Otherwise, we can keep an eye on this all-time highs, 2860, I think it's all-time highs. 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 2860, I think it's all-time highs yeah, we poked through that all-time highs area, so we could potentially watch for a, so just something I've just noticed on the volume, we could watch for a potential double top, I was about to say, but something of interest is this decline in volume and then a big volume spike. Decline in volume, increase in price, that means that there's less and less interest from buyers and they're just not willing to push it up any harder. And then we had this big volume spike here, and that's potentially showing end in volume, and it's a double top, so there's an area to watch as well. Volume spike there, so potentially keep an eye on this area. We're really overbought as well, you know, well into the 80% area, so potentially we could be looking for shorts up here, maybe as a swing, 1 or 2 day swing trade. So let's keep an eye on break and retest a pre-market low, back down into this region. Otherwise, we are pretty extended for all the moving averages, so we can't not discount the fact that we might want to look for a trend continuation, but maybe if we go sideways for a bit, if we just start going sideways for a bit, give enough time for the moving averages to catch up, and then we can watch for continuation. So I'm going to just put an alert on pre-market low, because I quite like the break and retest that to come back to the moving averages. Okay, so RTY, which is the Russell 2000, failing to get out over this area. So this is the area we want to break out of. We either want to watch it push up into this area of overhead demand, or we want to see it break down, back down into these areas of, so that's supply into the areas of demand or areas of support. Point of control is down here as well, so that's a good bounce point all the way through there. So I do quite like 22.54 for the bounce. I do quite like the bottom of this box as well for the bounce, this area 22.80, and I do quite like to see it push up over yesterday's high, come back and retest, and then into this zone where we watch for rejections. And then YM is putting in a bit of an uptrend, and it's continuing this trend. Look at that, it's pretty much smack bang on. Pivot there, taken from that pivot. Trend continuation, I quite like the break and retest a pre-market high into this region here, and that is an overhead area of supply. So let's just find an area. Where do you have the biggest reaction? The smallest one there. This area here. So let's draw that in. It's a big area, but we know there were buyers there last time. So that's an area to watch. And look at that, 45,600. That's an area to watch. That area there. Okay, so that's it. Trend continuation on this one, or we can watch for the bounce back down at yesterday's low. Just keep an eye on this. Mark that off. Go back to the hourly. I'll get rid of that one. And there's the two areas we're watching, 44,765 and 45,150. And then finally Bitcoin. We got a breakout over, so we have been holding this area for some time now. So this is the area we need to get out of. So break and retest of yesterday's high will be a good trade. Otherwise we can watch this region also for a rejection. If we lose pre-market low, you know, we are in this pulling back a bit, and we've got reduced volume on that pullback as well. Let's look for the break and retest back down into this 100,000 area, and then keep an eye on 100,000 for potential bounce. Let's just mark, put an alert there. And that's it really on Bitcoin. Okay, that's it. Let's quickly look at order flow. This is streaming live as well. I'll leave it streaming until the market closes. What do we see? We see a bit of cumulative delta divergence. So we've got increase in price. Let's get rid of that. So we've got increase in price. Look at that, decrease in delta, showing that there's more aggressive selling than buying. And then we saw that with the kind of decrease in price coming down, and then we've got increase in delta. So that's two divergences, and now we're finally doing the same. So potentially, look at that for selling imbalances. That's what you want to see if you're looking for a short. Selling imbalances there, nothing. Some big heavy buyers up that area with some heavy selling. But look at that, we've got a red candle but a green delta, so we've got still got aggressive buyers up there. And then we've got this green candle with a red delta, pretty neutral, -38. That's pre-market levels anyway. Pre-market volumes is hard to judge, but you know, this is definitely a delta here. This is definitely a cumulative divergence here as well, and now we're back in line. So let's see what happens. So we've got our pre-market low break and retest coming up, and that's where we're closer to now, but bearing in mind we do have a bounce at 6100 below, so we have a little bit of room. Let's just go back to the main chart. So we're kind of right in that bounce area is watching. So this bounce area here, 6120, that area. If we lose that area, look for a break and retest down into this region, 6100. Big area of confluence, tops of those candles, bottoms of these candles, and then we've got this area to watch for a bounce, yesterday's low. And I think that's it. And obviously we've got trend continuation break and we test a pre-market high at 61.30. That's it. So it's the last day of the month. Trade only if you've got a grade A set, if it's a A+ setup. Otherwise, have a good weekend, and I'll be back Monday.